Hey everyone, buckle up. We're diving into some research today, and it really flips the script on aging and well-being, especially after this whole COVID-19 pandemic thing.
Yeah.
You gave us some seriously thought-provoking studies to unpack, and honestly, I'm excited to see where this goes.
We'll get ready for some surprises.
Yeah.
Because this research out of Spain, it really challenges some of our common assumptions about aging and how we handle tough times.
Okay, set the stage for us. What exactly were these researchers looking at?
They dove into the psychological well-being of two groups of older adults during Spain's COVID-19 lockdown.
Okay.
We're talking young old folks aged 60 to 70, and the old, those between 71 and 80. But here's the kicker. They weren't just looking at happiness.
Okay.
They were focused on eudaimonic well-being.
Eudaimonic well-being. All right, I'll bite. What is that
A
exactly?
mouthful, right. Think of it like this. It goes beyond just feeling good, right? It's about having a sense of purpose in life, feeling like you're growing as a person, and having the strength to navigate those curveballs life throws your way.
Got it. So going into this, you'd think the older group, having more years under their belts, maybe facing more age-related changes, would score lower on this whole well-being thing, right?
Logically, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But get this. The study found that the old group did not report lower overall psychological well-being compared to the younger group.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
No way. That's wild. Are we totally off base about how aging works?
It's not that simple. It's more nuanced.
Okay.
While their overall well-being scores were similar, age did have a negative impact on feelings of personal growth within the older group.
Okay, so there's a difference, just not where we might expect. What's
Yeah.
the deal there?
There are a few pieces to this puzzle. Societal expectations play a role. As we age, there's this message, sometimes unspoken, sometimes not, that says our time for growth and exploration is over. Like, we should be settling into retirement, not starting new careers or picking up new hobbies.
It's like we hit a certain age and society tries to stuff us in a box, but we all know people who totally defy that.
Exactly. And those individuals show us how important it is to challenge those limiting beliefs. Our later years can be a time of incredible personal transformation and exploration if we allow it.
I love that. Okay, so it's not just age itself, but how we view aging.
Right.
What else did they find about what affects well-being in these groups, especially with something as huge as a pandemic going on?
All right, here's where it gets really interesting. You'd think that those direct experiences with COVID-19, getting sick, being hospitalized, even knowing someone who is severely ill would be the biggest factor impacting well-being, right?
Right, that seems logical. Those are major stressors, to say the least.
And yet, surprisingly, those factors were not the biggest predictors of well-being for either age group.
Whoa, hold on. Now that's unexpected. If you're listening to this and thinking about how hard the pandemic was, that doesn't seem to track. So what's the missing piece here?
This finding really highlights how powerful our mindset is and how we each perceive challenging situations.
You're talking about resilience, right?
Yeah.
Is that what's going on?
Resilience is a big part of it, absolutely. This study actually uses a framework called the stress process model developed by psychologists Richard Lazarus and Susan Folkman.
So walk me through this stress process model thing. How does it explain what we're seeing here?
Basically, it boils down to this. It's not just about what happens to us, but it's how we make sense of it. Our interpretation of these stressful events, what they mean for us, that's what really impacts our well-being even more than the events themselves.
So it's not just about the what, it's about the how, like how we process it all. I can see how that would be huge, especially with something as unpredictable and scary as a global pandemic.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You could have two people go through the exact same experience, like being stuck at home during lockdown.
Right.
One person sees it as a prison, feels trapped, loses motivation.
Yeah.
The other, they see it as a golden opportunity to finally finish that novel they've been putting off, to reconnect with their family, maybe to learn a new skill.
Right, right.
Same objective situation, but the impact on their well-being.
Night and day.
Okay, yeah, that clicks. Our mindset is like a filter, right? It colors how those events actually hit us. That's a powerful concept. But it's still kind of wild to think that direct COVID experiences wouldn't be the top factor. Was there anything in the study that did have a super strong connection to well-being across the board?
Absolutely. And this is where those personal resources we talked about earlier come into play.
You mean things like resilience, you mentioned it earlier, but what does that actually look like in practice?
It's like having a toolbox full of skills and strategies for dealing with life's curveballs. And just like any skill, these can be honed and strengthened over time.
This study found that resilience, gratitude, and acceptance, These were all powerfully linked to higher levels of both personal growth and purpose in life.
Wow.
And that goes for both age groups.
Hold up, resilience, gratitude, and acceptance. Are you saying that those three things can help us navigate rough waters no matter how old we are? Because that's a seriously empowering message for all of us.
It is. And it's not just some feel-good fluff. Think about it. Resilience helps us bounce back from setbacks. Gratitude lets us find the good even when things are tough. And acceptance allows us to let go of what we can't control and focus on what we can. These are active practices, not just passive traits.
It's like having a whole inner support system we can tap into. Were there any other factors that stood out from the research?
A few other things popped up as well. Better perceived health went hand in hand with higher well-being, which makes a lot of sense. When we feel good physically, it tends to have this ripple effect on other areas of our lives.
Right. It's hard to be your best self when your body's not cooperating.
Exactly. Another big one was strong family functioning. Feeling close to loved ones, having that sense of support and belonging that can be incredibly protective, especially during tough times.
We're social creatures after all. Those connections are everything.
And for the younger group, being married or in a committed relationship was also linked to greater well-being. This makes sense given the security and companionship those relationships can offer, especially later in life.
It's like having a built-in teammate, someone to lean on when things get tough and celebrate the good times with. But I'm guessing it's not as simple as saying, get married, be happy. Right? It's got to be more about the quality of that relationship, not just the label.
You hit the nail on the head. A healthy, supportive relationship, that can be an incredible wellspring of strength. But a strained or unhappy one, that can do more harm than good.
Right.
It's about the quality of the connection, not just checking a box.
This is eye-opening stuff. So what we're seeing here is that aging doesn't automatically equal decline. It's about how we deal with challenges, the inner resources we nurture, the connections we prioritize. Those are the real keys to well-being, no matter how old we are.
Precisely. This research really drives home the point that our later years can be incredibly meaningful, full of growth and well-being, especially when we focus on cultivating those inner strengths and those close connections.
So where do we go from here? What does this all mean for our listeners, for anyone navigating their own journey with aging and well-being?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something I hope you'll all ponder as we continue this deep dive.
You know, for all the talk about aging gracefully, maybe it's more about aging actively. What do you think?
I love that. Aging actively.
Yeah.
It's about staying curious, trying new things, really nurturing those relationships, and finding those sparks of joy and purpose that make life so rich. And that's something we can all aim for no matter what our driver's license says.
Absolutely. This research just blows the lid off those old stereotypes about aging.
Yeah.
It's not about some slow, inevitable decline. It's about how we choose to show up at any age.
Exactly. We're not just passive passengers on this journey of life. We have the power to shape our experience, to choose resilience, to find meaning and purpose even when things get tough.
So as we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are out there living their lives, facing their own challenges, and maybe even feeling inspired to embrace this whole aging actively thing?
Well, you've done a fantastic job unpacking this research.
Well, thank you.
So I think the real question is, what resonates with you? What's one small step you can take today to strengthen your own resilience, gratitude, or acceptance? What can you do, even something small, to nurture your own well-being?
Those are great questions to sit with. And on that note, we'll leave you all to your reflections. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a total mind shift. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep living those lives to the fullest.